Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode here for Banish the Doubt. I am in this human form, George McNamara, and I absolutely bow to the light that is inside of you. You know, most of the population has grown up in environments, in households where there was a lot of stress. And when there's stress, what you need is muscle. You need strength. Because when there's stress, what we're focused on is external. There's no time for internal. So the average person grows up in an environment where there's disharmony, a lot of limiting beliefs. And this goes back generational. Okay, you go back to parents, grandparents, great grandparents. My own personal story from my grandparents, my mom's side. I didn't know my father's side, but from my mom's side, whenever now when I say whenever they would argue, right there, there's dysfunction. So whenever they would have arguments, my grandmother would go around and open the windows and tell my grandfather, "Why are you closing the windows? Everybody argues." So my grandfather didn't want other people hearing them argue for fear of being judged. So rather than my grandmother saying, "Well, wait a second, why do you feel worried? Why are you so worried about what other people think of you? What is it about in your childhood? Who judged you?" So that was the subconscious programming. So the majority of people grow up, we grow up in an environment where there was dysfunction, a lot of self sabotaging, a lot of limiting beliefs, disempowering thoughts and beliefs. So the first 7 years of our life, from third choice, so 7 years plus 3 months, our brain turned on, was open. Okay, it was open. And if what's going in into the brain, okay, if what's going into our brain are these types of conditioning, it's going into our subconscious. Now, this, our conscious brain at that point is clear. There's nothing there prior to the third month of third trimester. Because the third trimester, whatever mom was seeing in her environment, whatever environment was like, was being transferred into you and I. Okay? But the conscious mind is not developed those first 7 years. So everything goes into the subconscious. So beyond age 7, whatever is in the subconscious brain, whatever our beliefs are about ourself, limiting beliefs I talked about, disempowering beliefs, habitual thinking. For myself personally, I remember when I would go to church and the priest would speak loudly, I would repel. I didn't like that. I told my mom I didn't want to go to church anymore because I don't like the way the priest yells. Again, an opportunity for our parents to say, "Well, what's going on? Why do these loud noises scare you? Maybe something going on in home." There was lots of arguments. They didn't want to own up to that, my parents, or they were just living in denial. So my parents would have arguments, and at the end of the argument, my father would leave the house, hop in a car, and drive away. To a young boy, where did he go? Abandonment. Okay, so lots of abandonment issues. Okay, so these are the thoughts that are floating around in our subconscious mind. We get older. We get an idea. We see a young man sees a young girl sees a young man, but let's just say young, because I'm, man, let's say a young man sees an attractive girl. If his thoughts inside here are, I'm not good enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not strong enough, whatever it may be, the subconscious programming, okay, the idea to ask the girl out on a date, okay, let's just use that. That idea goes into the brain. So after age 7, our conscious brain is developed. But that idea goes into the brain. Well, let me do this, actually. Let me do it this way. So, subconscious brain here, right? The Y idea goes into our conscious brain. That would be my neighbor leaving. He's going on his motorcycle for the afternoon. A Y idea comes in. Ask somebody out on a date, an opportunity to whatever it may be. Okay, if that idea is not there's not a program for that, what's going to happen is our subconscious brain is going to kick that idea out. We know this by things like, well, these things never work out. Whatever. And when it does not work out, we say, see, I told you these things don't work out. Here's a case in point. I was in network marketing, Amway, and there was this, what society would call a stigma around Amway. We would go to conferences, and speakers would come up, and they'd give us a bunch of why ideas. Money, lifestyle, rich and famous, that car, live that neighborhood, never have to work again, all these ideas. All those ideas would come into our conscious brain. We'd be conscious of it, right? We get all filled up with all of this hope and these desires and these wishes. And the moment we left the conference, today's a Sunday, so it was ending on a Sunday. You could almost hear, I'm saying it now, a hissing sound. What do you mean a hissing sound? Well, you would have the balloon, right? And these would be in here wishes and desires. So in their mind, right? In the conscious mind, all these wishes and desires. But if the subconscious mind is, I'm not good enough, these things don't work out, so-and-so said no to me, then what happens is you get this air coming out of the balloon. So then the Amway Corporation, network marketing corporations knew that they had to keep pumping the people up with all this. No, you got to keep going, keep pushing, keep putting more reasons in. But the subconscious programming said no. Same is true with you and I in our life. So scientists actually did this. You can even try it. They did a muscle testing. Let me see if I can adjust this computer, guys. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Muscle testing. Take a statement, any statement. The one that I put here was, I have 3 years. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. I have 3 years. Just conscious statement. When we say a statement, this why idea, what happens is immediately our subconscious mind, which is programs, and the conscious mind, like I said, wishes and desires, creative. The subconscious program reviews the statement whether or not the data is built into the programs. So if it's not, it will kick it out. The conscious mind, the creative mind, and the subconscious mind, the programs, if there is no harmony between the two, okay, muscles weaken because the subconscious mind is the hardware, just like this computer. There's a hardware. If I talk to the hardware, it goes nowhere, nothing. I can talk to it all day, all night, doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen. The subconscious mind controls the muscles in our body. So if you have a statement and it's not true, there's not a program for it, you could just push on your cheek, you can do an eyes, you could take your fingers, push on somebody's arm. If there is a program for it, if the subconscious has a program, you could take somebody's arm and you could make a statement, and that arm's not going to move. You could do a chin up on that arm. If, however, there's no program for it, this arm does not have to move much. What they did was they tested, and they just did this, and the arm just had to move that much. That's all it was. As long as the arm moved, there was no program for it. The subconscious kicks it out. So going back then to what we first started off with was how we were raised. We want to rewrite the program, but here's something even more alarming. Okay? What tests showed was that scientists found out and proved and concluded that there was two fundamental programs that 80 to 90% of all the population, they said, will not test positive for this statement, this program. I love myself. Because when we were criticized as kids, we became self-critical as adults. 80 to 90% of all population will not test positive for I love myself. Even more alarming was that 80 to 90% of all the population will not test positive for I am safe, which determines behavior out in the world. So 80 to 90% of the population will not test positive for I love myself and I feel safe in this world. So then it becomes very important then for us to change the subconscious programming. You see, prior to age 7, we are in what's called a hypnotic state. So from third trimester through age 7, we are in primarily what's called theta brainwave state. And theta brainwave state is the hypnotic state. So it's the hypnotist telling the patient, putting them to sleep, basically. But they're not putting them to sleep, they're just shutting down the conscious mind. They're shutting this down so they can talk directly to the subconscious. And then one day they say things like, when I'm going to count from 10 backwards, when I get to 0, I'm going to clap, I'm going to snap my fingers, whatever. And the person is under the spell. You and I, likewise, were under a spell for the first 7 years of our life. And we know this by, you can go back and say, almost every conversation about when I was about, and we say 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, maybe 7, because that's when the conscious brain started forming. So we go from delta brainwave state, theta brainwave state, alpha, which is slow consciousness, beta, and then gamma. So what we want to do then is we want to talk to our subconscious mind when we're in that theta brainwave state, when we're just about ready to fall asleep. What you put in your mind then determines what you're going to see in your dreams, who you're going to see in your dreams. See, because we dream about something or somebody because they are in our subconscious mind. And we see this, we dream about this because the conscious mind is not there to analyze, right? You notice you have dreams like, I dreamt about somebody, I dreamt about this or that or what have you. Because the subconscious mind is open, it's active, it's always there. But the conscious mind, the analytical mind, is not there to judge or to criticize. Another study was done, a test with guys and girls, and they were asked to two things. They were asked to sit alone with their thoughts for 10 minutes, A, or B, they didn't want to do that, just give themselves an electric shock. And astounding, like 70% of the testers, the people they talked to said, the females said that they would just give themselves a shock. They didn't want to sit alone for 10 minutes. And the guys was somewhere between 60 to 70%. Maybe 80% of the women, but 60 or 70% of the men said, I'll take the shock. Because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts. Because the majority of people, us, myself, felt abandoned growing up. We're worried about other people, what they thought of us, right? I don't have my cell phone on me, but if I take a cell phone, if I go like this, and I make believe I'm going to take a photo of anybody, they're going to say, oh, no, don't take a photo of me. I gotta fix my hair. I gotta, whatever. Because we're so hyper vigilant about what other people think of us. And that is a negative based programming. That's a disempowering, limiting belief program. Society has us in fear. What does it say? I'm not safe. Okay, I am safe. And 80 to 90% of us say, I will not test positive for I am safe. So therefore I am in fear. And then if we look at that, I have it here. Bear with me for 1 second. If we look at that, there are 3 Ds. You see that there? Fear is a tool that's used to keep the masses. Okay, so we just said 80 to 90% will not test positive for I feel safe. So it's a tool that's used to keep the masses divided. Are we not divided? Distracted, cell phones, social media, TV programming, and dependent on the system, dependent on a job. The thing is, there is no out there. There is only now, this now moment. There is no such thing as out there. Everything out there is is a result of what you believe about yourself. Everything out there is a result of how you define yourself. Everything out there is just a mirror for how you perceive yourself. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing in this world is there in your reality, which is different than mine. Nothing is there except for how you perceive yourself, how you define yourself and assume who you are. That's why in the Bible, Jesus asked Peter, who do the people say that I am? Not him. Who do you say I am? You. So the way we change the subconscious programming, the conditioned programming, the way we think of ourselves, as Carl Jung called it, the shadow, is by changing the way we see ourselves in this now moment. I am enough. I am worthy. I am deserving. You are all of those things. Period. End of statement. You have always been. You always will be. That's why I say I bow to the light that's inside of you, because you and I are comprised of 7 quadrillion atoms, some 50 trillion cells. And how we think is based off of what we believe and what we define, how we define ourselves. So from this moment, this now moment on, define yourself, believe in yourself that you are enough, that you are worthy, you are capable, that you are deserving of whatever it is you're looking for, whatever brought you to this video, because you are. And if you are in service of yourself, then you must serve the rest of humanity, because that light goes out, that energy goes out, that vibration goes out, that frequency goes out, it emanates out from you to the world. And the world must, just like if I were to drop this, you see that there, this marker, it must fall to the earth. It's never going to go up. It's always going to come down. So law, the Hermetic law of all is mind. It goes back some 50,000 years. As above, so below. As within, so without. These laws have been around, just like gravity, for thousands and tens and tens and tens of thousands of years. And they will still be around tens and tens and tens of thousands of years from this now moment, which will be this now moment. So it's how you see yourself here right now in this now moment. There's never been a moment like this prior. This is brand new. There's no such thing as the past. The past, the future, and the now all take place right now. So changing your concept of yourself, your perception, your assumption, your belief, and your definition of yourself changes everything. Your past, the future, and of course right now, because it all happens right now. You are reality. You change everything. Only you. The most important voice in all of this universe is your voice. If you would want some assistance with anything that I just talked about, feel free to go to my channel, click on the link that says Coach Geo, and we'll work together on creating this narrative about yourself, this definition about yourself, this belief about yourself. So therefore, the thoughts that then enter into your brain will then go through your body. Just like the day you met the one you thought was the one, and everything was just so harmonious. Okay? That's it. Have a great day.